All right, before we go too much further with the UI, I want to address kind of a big problem we have with our app, and that is the problem of authorization. And authorization just means who can do what. And right now, we are not actually, we don't have any authorization. We're not like prohibiting a user from updating somebody else's content or deleting somebody else's content. So if we go into our controller and let's just look at, well, for starters, we can go to the show page, right? So set activity, and it's going to find the activity by the ID that's in the URL. But we're not actually saying, or we're not prohibiting somebody else from seeing another's activity. So as long as you know as long as you're logged into the account, you could view someone else's activities, and further from that, you could actually edit or delete their activities, which is a huge problem. So I want to write a few tests for this first, actually, to isolate this. So I'm going to copy this fixture right here, and I'm just going to do, let's do another confirmed user with activities. So we have two users on the site, and each of them have different activities. And then in the activities fixture, I'm going to do the same thing, except I'm just going to do swap the user out and do this, right? So another confirmed user activity, keep it consistent. So another confirmed user activity. Okay, so we have that. Now earlier we ran a generator to create our controller, and it also created a test for us. So if I go to activities, controller, test, let's go to this. Let's just get some simple test data up here. So we'll do user1, and we'll just set it equal to this fixture right here, and then we'll do user2. And then what we can just do is keep this simple, and we'll do user1 activity, and we could actually just do like user1 dot activities first, because it doesn't really matter which one, we just need an activity, and then we'll just swap this out for user2. So now we have our test data that we can work with, and the first thing I want to do is should not delete another user's activity. We'll start with something kind of important here. And this test is going to fail, but I kind of want to write this now. So we'll sign in as user1, and then we want to assert that nothing changed, so assert no difference with the activity count. So this is going to make sure that the amount of activities in the database does not change. And then we'll do, I think it's, and here we're actually like simulating a request, like an HTTP request. So I think you want to do delete activity path, but then we'll put in user2 activity, and I think that's actually it. Then we should also do should not update another user's activity. And again, we'll sign in as user1, and then for this we do, let me actually do some sample data. So new duration, we'll have it equal to 1. We'll keep it simple. And then we'll do put, and then activity path, because we're simulating a HTTP request here. So put activity path, and then the params activity, or actually, this needs to go over here. And then duration, new duration, and then down here I just want to do assert not equal, I think. We want to do assert not equal user2.reload activity duration. We want to make sure it doesn't equal this. We want to make sure it actually didn't update. Well, let's just do should not get show for another user's activity, and we'll sign in as the user, and then we'll do get activity path, and we should do, we want to do that they were redirected. So assert redirected root path. We'll probably have them just get redirected to the root path. So if I clear this out, these should all fail. So test controllers, and this is activities controller. Oh, okay, and before we can even do that, we have to include that devise helper, because this sign-in thing is a helper from devise, but this class doesn't actually know about it. But we can easily do that with, go to our system test, and we can just copy this, and actually it's probably just easier to put it in the test helper. Yeah, let's just add this down here. I think that will actually take care of it, because so this is the test helper, right? And where are we? So we're in controllers, which requires this test helper. So that should actually require it everywhere. Activity path. Okay, so let's see here. Line 24. Put, oh, spelling again. Activity path. Let's try that again. Okay, so let's see here. Spelled that wrong, and actually spelled that wrong here too, and here. Yikes. Sorry about that, guys. It's just it's a little early and not the best at typing things in. But then again, this kind of stuff happens all the time. So redirected, I think assert redirected to is the method. All right, so I think now undefined method activity for, now what's this? Put activity path params activity. Oh, maybe, no, that's weird. Let's go through some of these errors. So line 12 is an uninitialized constant. And where is that coming from? Should not delete another user's activity, sign in user 1. Oh. Activity count. So that's failing for the right reason, but we're still getting an error. And the error is undefined. So where Where's this coming from? Line 20. Well, the test is on line 20. The error is on line 25. Assert not equal. User to. Oh. I can't reload on the user, but I can reload it on the activity. Oh, and actually, it's because I'm just calling the wrong thing. So I should be saying user to activity reload duration. Okay. All right, so we're getting 3 failures and no errors. So this is good. This is where we want to be. And I'm going to write, let's just add this real quick. So let's see here. So write failing tests to guide in authorization feature. So git status, do git push, and now after all that, I'm going to use this gem called Pundit, and it's just a way to take care of authorization. So I'm going to close out the server, clear this out, and run bundle add Pundit, and we'll wait for this to install. Okay, so that installed, and I think I have a new command from this. So if I run rails g and just hit enter, I will see a list of generators that I have available, and one of them is Pundit. So, and actually before I go too far ahead of myself, let's go to the instructions here. So actually, oh, you know what? You can run the generator, which will set the application policy. Okay, so maybe I'll just do this. Well, first let's do include Pundit. So application controller. We'll include Pundit at the top. I also know that I want to have an error raised if someone does something they shouldn't be doing. So let's see here. We also want to add this, so I'll do this underneath Pundit. Then we'll add this private method. And what this is doing is, let's say a user tries to view another user's activity. What will happen here is, because Pundit is going to throw this no authorization error, and that would actually, like, it wouldn't crash the app, but you would get an error screen on the app, which is not going to be helpful in production. So instead, when this error is thrown, we'll rescue from it with this that not authorized method. And what will really happen here is the user will just either go back to the page they were on or go to the front page, and they'll see this message right here. You were not authorized to perform this action. So we have that installed. And let's see here. So now we can do that generator. Let's do this. I think this just gets some default set up for us, but it's not actually going to solve our problems just yet. So we have this application policy here, and it's going to sort of be like the way controllers work, where there's these predefined actions like index and show and create. And everything I think will inherit from this, but this is just a good place to start, but it's not actually going to do anything yet. So the next thing I can do is, I forget what the other command was. Is it still up here? Pundit policy. So Rails generate Pundit policy. I kind of forget what it needs, so it'll tell me. Okay, so Rails generate Pundit policy. Instead of user, we'll do singular, so activity. And then I could have just written this out by hand, but basically it makes us, and under policies, now I have this activity policy. I don't typically use this scope thing, so what I'm going to do is just get rid of that. And now all we really need to worry about is doing making a method for each action, except we throw a question mark at the end of it, just because this is like a Ruby convention where if there's a question mark after it, it implies that this method is going to return true or false. Before I get too far, I kind of want to explain this. So the way this works is Pundit is going to look for the current user and the current record that you're looking at. So in the case of our application, it's going to look for the current user, which is user, and then the record in this case will be that represents the activity, and each activity has a user. So essentially what we want to do here is if the current user is the same as the activity user, or the owner of the activity, this is going to return true. So this line right here, just by default, is going to return true or it's going to return false, and then that means that this method will return true or return false. So I'm actually just gonna, I think I can just copy this a few times. So I'll do, well, create doesn't actually matter because where are we? Activities controller. Create is happening off of the current user, and we're not allowing the user ID to be passed in as a parameter. So even if like a user knew how our API was built, they wouldn't be able to like make an actual post request and associate an activity with anyone else but themselves. But we want to do edit and update. So we have all of that. Let's just run the test suite real quick. So Rails T test controllers. Oh, you know why? Because this doesn't actually do anything yet until I go into my activities controller. And what we want to do here is we want to basically do, and I'll show you, authorize the activity. And I'm getting activity because we have it through this method here. So let's go to the docs real quick. So this is how it works. So this authorize method is going to look in the activity policy, and in this case for the show action, it's going to look to the show method here, and it's just going to check like, okay, is the current user the same person that owns that particular activity, and then it's either going to return true or false. So let's just go ahead and we should have one passing test. So we have actually an error now. So let's see here. Unable to find policy. That's strange. Okay, so actually what the problem was I just needed to close my terminal and open it up again because the development or the test server needed to restart. But we have one passing thing now, so this is good. So I'm actually going to go ahead and copy this a few more times. So let's see here. Do we have it for create? Actually, we don't need to worry about create. We need to worry about edit and update. Let's just see if these all pass. Oh, and of course, destroy. So those all pass. It's a little redundant having this in here. Maybe we can make this into another method. I guess there's pros and cons to that because I do kind of like how if you're just glancing over this, like another developer could see like, okay, well, this means, there's some authorization going on with these things. So maybe we'll leave it like that for now. And I'm going to just commit this. And I'm going to say configure Pundit and lock down activities. And let's go ahead and push that up. And I think that's a good place to leave off for now.